My name is Jennifer Thompson.
My name is Dr. Kasan Tasfai.
I'm Mark Hader.
Syrian Chimpepo.
Dr. Craig Cormick.
Margaret Karembu. I'm a co-convener of ABBC2019, which is the Africa Biennial Biosciences Communication Symposium. We are here in South Africa, and the theme of our conference is getting it right in communicating about genome editing. Why is it important? Our continent has tended to lag behind in adopting new and emerging technologies because of three reasons. One is late involvement and engagement of stakeholders. Secondly is the players, the scientists who are developing these technologies have not quite engaged with the public, and the regulators have not made the public aware of the regulatory system in place to assure safety of the technology.
I was very excited when I heard about this conference because the work that we've been doing is the old-fashioned GM work. So it's putting genes in using a bacterium to introduce the genes into plants. And we made so many mistakes in the early days of trying to get the message of what a GMO is and what it can do, particularly in developing countries and Africa, of course.
We've learnt from gene technology, from genetic modification, how we got it wrong. So we have to take lessons from there and learn what to do with CRISPR. The community, the public, the stakeholders, policymakers have to come with us on the journey. We can't be over here and the public over here. We all have to come together.
So the importance of this conference is very high actually, and it is very well settled because you really have interaction between scientists and with different stakeholders, being it policymakers, being it people from the media.
We have three main objectives in ABBC. One is to share the global perspectives, and so we have experts from different parts of the world to share with us how the technology is being governed globally and what is happening. Secondly, we want to look at the regulatory approaches currently in place, what is appropriate for us in Africa, what may not be appropriate, and so we learn from those experiences. And thirdly, we'd like to optimize use of digital and conventional media in reaching out to the whole wide spectrum of our stakeholders, from the high policymakers to the grassroots and to the consumers.
At ABBC, I see the African scientists are so passionate and very excited about genome editing, and they're all ready to go. One thing that needs to build up is the capacity for scientists to communicate genome editing, which is not easy. And this is not just African scientists. Around the world, we see scientists require this because it is not easy to communicate modern biotechnology or emerging technologies.
As scientists, we tend to package our messages to the people in our scientific community, but this workshop symposium, it really helped us, or we got to be taken through on how to package our messages in a way that it can be understood by a wider community, not only in the scientific world, but outside the scientific world.
From this conference, I have learned that researchers in Africa are active in the field of genome editing. They are developing many products that will be useful for the African farmers and for the consumers. But I also learned that some African countries still don't have a regulatory framework ready to analyze those products and take a decision regarding if they can be released to the market or not.
Some of the things that I've learned here is, in the first place, when you communicate, is not to try and capture it in a formula. In the end of the day, communication is about the moment when you communicate, who you communicate with. You have to adjust that. You have to understand the person that's listening to you.
I have learned a lot in the way of communicating the science. Science communication is the most challenging, aspect, especially when you look at the jargon in science and also in biosafety. Because when you look at biosafety, which we are as a regulator focused on, you have to have a knowledge on the technology for you to be able to regulate it, to ensure that it is safe for the environment, it is safe for the human health, as well as ensuring that it doesn't affect biodiversity.
I've learned about how to communicate CRISPR better and how to influence people's decisions. But most importantly, the network was amazing. Learn from different people from different parts of the world and different sectors. It's also, as a media person, it's also interesting to hear what the scientists and the developers of these technologies think in how to communicate their product and how to better efficiently communicate it to the public.
One thing which I was very happy was the presentation from Argentina. So that also gave us some hope that maybe the African countries will follow the way the Argentina is handling the products developed through genome editing. So I was very happy. And then the presentations on communications, which were talking about what to do, what not to do when you are communicating to the public about the products developing using the new technology, was very useful. So now I know whom to trust, how to communicate to the people, and which should be our targeted audiences when we want to communicate about the product developed using the genome editing.
I have had wonderful ideas coming from this conference, really practical ideas of how to get the trust of the audience you're speaking to. There will be people who will never, ever agree to it. Leave them alone. Speak to the people in the middle ground who can be influenced and give them examples that they can live with.
One of the things that I took away from this conference is that we are all kind of grappling with the same challenge. That is how to get our arms around a very rapidly emerging technology and how to regulate that safely, but also to communicate it safely.
This conference has been really helpful for sharpening the way we could work forward ways. And some of the strategies that have come here have been very good at taking very complex ideas and coming up with straightforward and simple solutions. And I'm going to take some of those back with me to Australia as well. I think sharing internationally is very important because the CRISPR community, the genome editing community, is international. And what's happening in Africa has to be consistent with what's happening in Australia, what's happening in North America and Europe. If we all share that information and share the outcomes of this conference, we'll all be working in the right direction together.
The highlights of ABBC were the breakout sessions. We had breakout sessions with the regulators, with top editors in the media houses, and also with women. And what was relevant to me was with the editors. And the takeaway message came very strongly, where there's a strong cultural barrier between the editors or the media and the scientists.
Lunch-on meeting with the regulators, which was very good session, because that's where all my research is based in Kenya. And then the CEO of NBA presented and also was quite positive about this technology, and he says they are developing the guideline for the genome edited products, which was very good to know.
The talk from Craig, the Australian, he's a science communicator, and the Kenyan journalist. The two presentation and discussion was, for me, it was great, because I haven't seen journalists talking like that, and then also putting things in the right order.
I think this symposium was very successful in meeting its objective of having people to understand CRISPR, to understand genome editing, how it works, and to understand how it can be regulated in an appropriate manner.
My excitement in ABBC 2019 proceedings is the enthusiasm from participants to get CRISPR right, from Americas, from Europe, from Asia, including Australia. And the highlight from the Argentina experience in regulating genome editing is really one that African continent could consider among the others, because they have already started getting products in the marketplace. So this experience also helps us in getting to see how we package our messaging from the regulator to the communicator, and really making sure that the messages resonate with the stakeholder needs and concerns.
The conference was an eye-opener, very informative, especially when you talk about communication, effective communication, and engaging different stakeholders.
I really liked the conference. It was different of the type of congresses I've been before, and I really liked the type of the exercise we had to do and to improve our skills. So that was very, I enjoyed. It was very funny and helpful, actually. Yesterday morning, so the first morning, was really inspiring because there was a overview of scientists and journalists all together. So that was really interesting for me.
It went beyond my expectation because I met excellent researchers coming from various countries in Africa, and also a very good communicator, journalists, but a very good science communicator. And I also got a chance to share experience from Argentina and of course US and Australia.
Moving forward, ABBC 2019 has already endorsed the formation of an Africa coalition for communicating about genome editing, upon which communication strategies and plans will be developed to engage our stakeholders systematically and regularly.
We have a chance now, as the technology is changing, to make sure that we're out ahead of it, that our regulatory programs work well, and that we are speaking in new terms.
Genome editing is the latest entrant into modern biotechnology. It's a new wave, so much of potential, so much of promises. And this is when scientists should jump into the ring and start communicating genome editing.
As scientists, let's get CRISPR right.
Let's get CRISPR right.
Africa should get CRISPR right.
Let's get CRISPR right.
As the media, let's get CRISPR right.
Get CRISPR right.
We should get CRISPR right.
We must get CRISPR right.